Hey everyone, I am so excited to have Wayne McCulloch with me. Wayne is the head of customer success at Google Cloud currently and has a lot of great experience at big and small companies. And I'm really excited to host Wayne and have him talk about customer success and tech and also a new book that he has coming out. I would love Wayne to just give us a little bit of background and we'll go from there.
Thanks, Joe. Really excited to be here. So someone who spent most of their life in B2B software, originally on the education, training, adoption space, based in Australia, and then made the move to the United States in 1999. Moved to Chicago, way too cold. I don't know how people live there. So I went to Austin, much better, a lot more fun. And then just recently made the move out to Boulder. But I've worked at big companies, small companies, public companies, private companies. Made the pivot to success while I was at Salesforce in my career. Sort of really recognized the power of the entire customer experience that you can have with all these different departments post first sale. And I've spent the last part of my career doing that. And of course, decided to write a book about my experiences to save people a lot of the pain that I went through.
Definitely. And, customer success is one of the fastest growing areas of business and focus for a lot of businesses. As you look back on your long career doing that and kind of building that up, what is the DNA of a good customer experience? Where does that come from?
Yeah, so I think a little differently to your traditional CX people. I'm not saying someone's right or wrong, but just like everything I've discovered in customer success, what works for you doesn't necessarily work for others. But for me, the DNA of great customer experience is, and this sounds really stupid, but delivering value to the customer. Yeah. Like a lot of people will have, it's like the unforgettable moments. It's the, it's all these aspirational and motivational type things, and they're all great. And I'm certainly not saying don't do that. I'm advocating for that. But at the end of the day, in this day and age, delivering what the customer wants is a great customer experience. Now, you can then argue that the experience of getting there is painful, and I'd say yes. And that's why things like having very personalized levels of service, having consistency in the experience, creating those unforgettable moments, they're all a part of it too. So I'm not saying it's one part, but when at the heart of it, when you think about it, I think a great customer experience is getting what you want. Like that's a great experience in itself. And I find people just sort of jump to the other things first, but that's super critical and really difficult sometimes to deliver. And so that to me is kind of the heart of what great DNA experience, customer experience should be.
Yeah, what you want when you want it as well is definitely a key piece of that. With so many steps in that journey and pieces contributing to that experience, how does customer success fit in?
Yeah, I said this the other day. I'm not sure if it resonates really well, but I kind of see like the customer success function is almost like the parent of in the playground that is post first sale kind of organizations. Because I think the customer success team is really thinking about the entire journey of the customer. Many other functions sort of come in at various points of the journey. And I was talking to my boss last week, and he mentioned a phrase like, these other groups are kind of dating. They go on a date and then they leave. Maybe they call, maybe they don't, But success is kind of like getting married. Like we're invested. We're all in on the journey, right. Good and bad. And so for that reason, it gives us unique perspective of the journey. And so as we look at other functions that come in to help at various points, whether it's implementation, adoption, expansion, advocate, whatever it is, the success function can help understand what great customer experience is looking like and what's not. And part of the job of customer success is to let those teams know where there's opportunities to create a better experience, but also to call out and congratulate other functions when they are doing something great. It's to be their champion as well, because that's the role of customer success inside an organization. So that's how I think about it.
That makes a lot of sense. And, your book is called The 7 Pillars of Customer Success. It recently came out. Talk about that and kind of how you came up with, the foundational pieces of customer success and what leads to that, forming that experience you just mentioned.
Yeah. So I wrote the book because when I pivoted my career into customer success, I was doing all the best practices and things that I saw worked at company like Salesforce, which is generally known as being really good at this because they've been doing it longer than anyone, because they kind of accidentally invented it with the new business and paradigm and how to deliver software and all those things. And so I couldn't work out why the best practices weren't working. And I was listening to thought leaders and I was reading blogs and I was attending conferences. And I'm like, all the time I'm thinking, oh, this is great. And I'd go do it and it didn't have the same outcome. And I was getting really frustrated that someone who's pivoted their career into success was still struggling to be the best they could be for their company, for their customers and their employees. And so ultimately I decided to take a step back and really look at the landscape of customer success and say, what's missing here? Why does this not work in one example and another? I've read the books, the customer success book from Nick Mehta and Lincoln Murphy and Dan Steiner. Like, everyone has that book on their bookshelf, and that tells you why customer success is crazy important. And then over on the other side, you've got a plethora of training courses and certifications and programs for CSMs to be amazing at their job. But there's this gap in the middle, which is, how do I connect the two? How do I connect these activities I do in the field and these concepts like customer health and success plans and QBRs and things like that CSMs do with the promise of what customer success really means in a SaaS company, which is, a growth engine of the organization? There's this missing gap. And that was a framework. It was an industry framework by which success functions could build their organizations in a consistent way, so they could have a great narrative about what they do, how they do it, how they measure it, and then be able to show those metrics of success, and also give them a blueprint on how to build a very mature success function over time, by starting very simple on many of the concepts we need and then advancing them to more advanced sort of, data science and all the stuff that takes years to go get right. That was missing. And so I ended up writing that book for me. But then other people are like, well, I wouldn't mind reading that book. And then and then I started putting, well, then in this framework, what are the options for a CSM? So I started putting that into the book. And then all of a sudden people outside of CS are reading it saying, well, now I get it. I want to be part of this journey. So it ended up being for a lot more people than me.
This is the lesson to all young professionals out there, is to document everything, and it may turn into a book.
Yeah. And this is the weirdest part about writing a book, is you write something down, you're like, oh, I believe this. And then you're like, well, do I believe that? Why do I believe that? Well, that guy said it, or this lady said it. And so you start like saying, well, do I believe it because they said it, or do I believe it because I believe it? And then you start second guessing yourself. So you go through this weird period. So now I know why artists are kind of a little different sometimes, because I can imagine this constant torture in their mind about what they believe and feel and think. And it is a weird sort of period to go through writing a book, but it was ultimately really satisfying, because at the end I'm like, okay, I believe this, I can defend it, I have evidence, I can show why, and now I'm going to put it down in writing for other people to critique and either say it's no good or it's awesome. It's a little scary, but I've done it, and hopefully it helps other people, especially those pivoting into leadership roles, either from success or outside of success, to give them an accelerated sort of start on how they build their functions to help elevate the whole customer success community.
Yeah, I love how you kind of found that gap and filled it in and connected the two, because there is a very much when you're doing research, you see all these people, thought leaders, talking about things, but then you don't always have the data behind it. Like, okay, well, I tried that at my company and it's not working, So it's interesting to try and bridge those gaps.
Yeah, I can imagine there's a lot of frustration, and I get it. So the way I describe my book is, I'm giving you the blueprints for building the house, framing it, foundation, all of that. You get to decide what to paint the walls and what flooring and what cabinets and what TV. Like, you get to do all that because that's unique to your company. But if you have a framework, it's much easier to wrap your head around. Okay, now we're going to do this. Oh, that's what happened. How does that interconnect with the other parts of the framework? Okay, if we tweak it here, we can have this impact down here. And it really makes it easier to pivot really quickly and be agile as you create this really tailored customer success organization that works for your business and your customers. And the one thing I've learned working at $50 million companies, $500 million companies, and $5 billion companies is what's inside your house will change. Like, the framework's still the same, but as you introduce new products, as your market becomes more sophisticated, more mature, as you grow and scale, the challenges and opportunities you have change. So the way what got you here doesn't get you there kind of concept, the way you run your business has to adapt. But if the framework is the same, it's a lot easier to move the pieces rather than reinventing and trying to start from scratch and all the risk and time that takes. The framework gives you an ability to be agile and to evolve. And again, that was part of my learning when I worked at, Looker, which was when I got there, sub $100 million company, but come from Salesforce. Now I'm at Google Cloud running the customer success for all the SaaS products in Google Cloud. They're all different. Like the success functions are all different. Framework's the same, but how we execute is very different.
Makes sense. And over the last year, we've definitely tested frameworks and learned a lot of things. As we've flexed muscles with video and streaming and learning new things, how do you think visuals and video can really enhance that customer experience?
So the cool thing about customer experience is every 6 months there's like some hot trend or some hot problem that everyone jumps on, which is great because we all just jump in and we're like, okay, this month it's all about onboarding. All right. So what's the important onboarding? And Donna Weber wrote this brilliant book called Onboarding Matters. Check it out if you get a chance. So really thinks about onboarding, and that was kind of great. And then COVID comes, and then you start pivoting to digital customer success. Well, suddenly everyone's digital because no one can travel, no one's in person. So everything's remote, everything's technology driven. So suddenly everyone's digital. So that becomes really hot. And so when we think about digital customer success, one of the things we often miss is we think tech touch, right? And tech touch is, I don't like that phrase. I don't even know what it really means. Like technology driven or something. And I'm like, no, sure. The cool thing about customer success is the human element. That's what makes it a customer success. It's that empathy. It's the things that technology doesn't give you. Technology allows you to scale that. Technology allows you to make better decisions. Technology means that you can have a bigger impact on your customer. That's what technology shouldn't be the customer success function. That makes no sense. But bringing them together does. So things like video gives you the ability. I'll give you the example for me. Like in the old days being 18 months ago, in the old days, like I would get on a plane, I'd fly to Florida, I'd meet with the customer there, have a great meeting, go to the airport, wait around, fly up to New York, go to the hotel, get up in the morning, meet another customer, have a great meeting, and then fly home. That's 2 customers in about 3 days of travel.
Sure.
Just last week, I met with 3 customers before lunch. And I was able to use video, and I was able to use that style to actually be more impactful, to have more reach. And then when you think about things like using visuals and video when you're helping a customer, I remember I was using a product recently where every time when I went into the support area, the help area of the software platform, every single feature had a video. And it was 30 seconds, and it was just click here, click here, click here. And I was like, this is brilliant. Like, I don't want to read a document and then work out why that word doesn't match that word or my version's like, I just need to get a feel for where things are. And visually I can see click, click, click. Oh, I didn't even know that button was there. I didn't see that was an option. Oh, that's really cool. Like those aha moments in 30 seconds, and I keep moving on. That's really, I think, hopefully something that lasts past the pandemic, which is leveraging technology like video, like visuals to actually improve the customer experience, to accelerate someone getting through their problems, because at the end of the day, we need them to realize value. We need them to be successful. And that is one sort of tool that we can leverage more in order to drive those outcomes.
Yeah, there was obviously Cloud App kind of fits into this. And I had reached out to their customer of ours, but we also use their product quite a bit. And I reached out to their support because we were having an issue, and they sent me a Cloud App video to close the ticket. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, I forgot they were a customer. I was like, oh yeah, they're a customer.
That's awesome. Yeah.
But yeah, it's
totally game changer.
It's a really unique connection that you just, have that instant, no more like going to the FAQ or anyway, yeah. Like you said, it's kind of the hot thing of the day, right?
Yeah. But also like, think of this, new release coming up. I can just record a quick video for my customer and just say, hey, Joe, new release coming out. Here are the 3 features I think you should check out for your business, because I know you do these things and we've been waiting for this. One of these was a feature idea you had, and you send that off. And it's literally 6 minutes of your time from start to finish, to record, to send all that. But to the customer, they're like, again, short amount of time. Don't have to take a call. Calls are 15, 30,
Yep.
an hour long. And you're like, why is everything blocked like that? Like, sometimes something is 3 minutes. Let's take 3 minutes. Why do I have to break it into these chunks? Thank you, traditional calendaring software. But the reality is video allows you to break those barriers.
Yeah.
And just have the effective, impactful communication really quickly. And it allows your CSMs to scale, because if I have 10 customers, in 1 hour, I can send information out to 10 customers rather than have 10 30-minute calls and then fill the time stuff. No, I'm not saying don't call your customer. I'm just saying this is something you might not do because it doesn't fit, the QBR format or whatever it is you've got. But you have the idea, you have the capability now to think differently about how you add value to your customer relationship. And so I think COVID has really accelerated our ability to think about leveraging technology in ways we wouldn't traditionally use it, that allow us to scale but add more value.
There's definitely a lot of opportunities, a lot of technologies out there to make your connection points better with customers and make things smoother. What are some ways that, and you can talk about Google Cloud, you could talk about Looker or any other stops you've made, but what are some things that you've done to create an experience for your customer?
So, well, let me start by this amazing quote that forever and a day. There's 2 quotes that rule my life when it comes to customer experience and customer success. The first one is from Scott Hudgens, who's he's the chief commercial officer at Walt Disney World Resorts, and he said one day, "No one owns the customer, but someone always owns the moment." And once I read that quote, it's sort of now I get it. The arguments we have about who owns the customer, like the conversations we have about, you can't talk to the customer because they're my customer, and then everything has to go through me, and blah, blah, blah. Those days hopefully are well behind us as we start to understand that on a journey, there are these moments of truth that happen. And as a company, we have to show up. And if we document that and identify who owns that, then people can get real precision-like sort of focus on how to deliver an amazing impact at that moment of truth with the support of who else needs to help them, right? So that's one quote. The second quote is from Lloyd Tabb, who's the founder of Looker. And he said, "Great software is an act of empathy." Now, if you just think about that for a moment, great software is an act of empathy. I'm like, what is that really saying? And it's saying that software by itself does nothing, right? You have to do something with it. You have to interact with it. That's where the value is created. So every time the software doesn't work, doesn't do what you need, there's a problem or an issue. That's on us. We're making it difficult for the customer to achieve value. We're making it difficult for the customer to have success. And so if we think about the software in that way, why not think about every part of the organization? A great software company should be an act of empathy. And I'll give you an example. DCL, our Department of Customer Love, which is our support organization at Looker, decided that, tickets are for concerts and airplanes. Like, we don't need tickets. What we want is in-product chat. And so if you're stuck, you just click a button, someone's there to help walk you through it. It's like someone over your shoulder. And we would have last year, I think our average response time is like 23 seconds. CSAT scores like 98%. First chat resolution is in the 90s. But the thing was, and we used it in, pre-sales environments to help close deals, because we could showcase how awesome our support was versus competitors where there's a ticket and it's because it's a level 4 or whatever, it's a 36-hour turnaround where they ask for more information and suddenly a week's gone by, you still. Whereas with us, like in seconds and minutes, you've solved the problem, moved on.
Yeah.
That experience is all about knowing that this person has to go home to a family at night. They don't want to be sitting there trying to solve a problem and just struggling on their own. If we can make it easier for them to be successful, get them promoted, get them home early to their family, then we've done our job, right? And that's what I take from great software as an act of empathy. But as an organization, that empathy was core to our customer experience. And so for me, that's the guiding light for us when we think about delivering experiences. And so at Google Cloud, our job is how do we help spread that sort of thinking around a sort of relatively new organization inside Google Cloud, to be honest, and it's still forming and building its way, and so we're a part of that.
I like how you said that everyone takes kind of an active role at their piece of it. I remember, I worked for one of those big companies, and there were some times that people would say, you would hear people say that their customer was the marketing department, or their customer was design, or, because that's where the end deliverable went, right?
Right.
And I had some really great leaders that would say, no, like, your customer is the customer. So find out a way that whatever you're doing is going to affect or benefit the customer. It's not, not the org that you're giving something to.
It's super easy to fall into that trap though, right, Joe? Like in the book, I mentioned this anecdote where I was talking to a PS leader at a company, and I'm like, are you really customer centric? Like, absolutely. It's our main focus. It's our mission statement. I mean, our consultants work over the weekend. They do whatever it takes to go live, make the customer successful. And I'm like, well, what's your measures of success? Like, how do you get paid your bonuses? How do you know that you're doing a great job? What are those metrics? And it was revenue, margin, and utilization. And I'm like, which one of those are customer metrics? Like, none of them are. So you've got these poor consultants that care a lot about the customer and will give up everything they can to make them successful. And yet the measure of success in the company has nothing to do with time to value, renewal rates, expansion rate, like all the things that are about the customer getting value and success, which in a SaaS company in the cloud, that is all that matters. The one-time SOW revenue doesn't matter anywhere near as much as the 5, 10, 20-year recurring revenue stream that can grow and expand and advocacy and I don't think we've necessarily sort of really worked through that. Yeah, we're customer-centric is easy to say, but doing it is often much harder. And so we work really hard at putting the customer at the center of all our decisions and working back rather than operationally, how do we get really good? Now let's try to give a great experience with the guardrails we've been given. You got to flip that. It's really hard to do.
We've had a lot of good conversation about customers and kind of benefiting them. And Wayne, this has been really fun conversation. I love having you on. I want to flip it a little bit, and you're the customer now. What's a great experience you've recently had? Could be retail, travel, B2B, whatever. What's a good experience that some company provided for you?
All right, I'm going to give one here. It wasn't that recent because it was about travel, which was not recent. So let's just say 18 months ago.
Sure.
But I was flying through Denver Airport back to Austin, Texas, and I have a Clear membership. I travel a lot. I'm million-mile kind of person a year, and so I travel a lot. And Clear is a really important part of my journey to make life easier. And I had to wait forever. It's a long line in Clear, right? Which is literally the opposite of what you buy a membership for.
Sure.
And obviously I'm like frustrated and it wasn't great. Anyway, I get a survey, because you always do when you go through Clear. You get a survey and it's like, how was your experience today? NPS, how would you recommend us to a friend or colleague? I put a 2. I'm like, my man, here's a 2. And then it's like, do you want to put comments? Yes. And I write a bunch of comments, right? I'm just sitting on the plane. I'm just filling it out. By the time I land in Austin, I got an email back from the manager of the Clear sort of team at Denver, said, thank you for taking the time to let us know. Here's what happened today and why there was a problem. Here are the steps that we're taking to ensure that never happens again. Here's my personal email address. If any other problems ever arise, I want to know.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Who does that? We often survey customers for vanity metrics. Let's NPS. Okay, well, let's pick the 5 people that'll give us good scores so we can get a good NPS score. And then we get it, we celebrate, and we get paid bonus or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And it's all for vanity. Or worse still, someone sends us back a 2 and you're like, we got a detractor. And then don't do anything. You literally don't do what the Clear person did at Denver. So if we really think about that, to me, game changer. That makes someone loyal. That makes someone fall in love with a company because you care, you're listening. Even though you're a big monolithic company, you're down to the point where my frustration within hours is answered in a reasonable way. I don't expect things to be perfect. I know things break. I know things don't work. But that to me just erased all the frustration and made me customer for life.
Yeah, and even showed the next steps. Hey, here's the plan. And it doesn't have to be super drawn out.
No, it's a couple of bullet points.
Hey, here's 2 bullet points, that we're going to do. And you may not even know what they mean, but it's like, oh, okay, cool. They're trying to solve the problem so it doesn't happen again. That's great.
Yeah, it was awesome.
So as we're kind of closing things up, I always love to have people look into their crystal ball and kind of make predictions. So I want you to tell us, what do you think you could go two paths here. What do you think is the future of experience business, which is really broad? Or what do you think is the future of customer success?
I'll take the first one.
Okay.
Because it's more challenging and I can be more aloof and no one's going to care. It's like weather forecasting. I'm going to be directionally correct, and as long as I am, that's okay. All right. So here's the biggest challenge I see today with customer experience is we have moved as an industry to a SaaS cloud-based deliverable, in some cases consumption-based models. And what we failed to do was change the way we build our organizations to support that journey. In other words, the old on-prem perpetual software world was here's support and pay a maintenance fee. Here's your services to implement and maybe some project work. Here's training to get you up and running on the latest version that we're going to change on you down the tracks, and it doesn't matter anyway. And then here's a success function that's called account management, right? So that's how we ran. And then we went to SaaS and created this whole new cloud model. Here's my training. Here's my PS. Here's my CS. And then here's my, support.
Yeah.
No. Like, stop. Let's think about it differently. Let's think about the customer journey. And if you built an organization from scratch, take away all the things you've known about org design and put it in the context of SaaS, how would you build a journey for a customer? You'd probably have an onboarding team, an implementation team, a value optimization team that does ROI and calculations to show value. So you can get to your renewals team that then moves on to an expansion motion that you have, an advocacy team that's made up of marketing and services and other components. Like, you would design it completely. You design for the journey, not for these operational functions inside a company. And I think, to me, someone much smarter than me and more brave than me was going to go out there and redesign what the post-first sales function looks like and show us that real customer experience will come from the design that allows the journey to be maximized from a moments of truth perspective and amazing outcomes, rather than us trying to cross and handoffs and all the things we have to do unnaturally to try to make a great experience. That's what I think is going to be the future.
I love that. Thank you, Wayne. That was a really great conversation. Thanks for sharing all of your wisdom on customer success.
Thank you.
And I'll let you get back to your day and back to your family.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Joe. I had fun. Thank you.
Thanks, Wayne. See ya.